Hey everyone, it's Terry with Terry's Tidbits in the Des Moines, Iowa user group. We had a fantastic session in April on DevOps, and I had one of my partners come and speak to us, and he's incredibly smart. He doesn't come from a Salesforce background, although over the last several years he's been learning Salesforce, but he has just enormous experience with professional level DevOps and creating really significant websites and managing those processes using a DevOps process. When he came over to the Salesforce platform, that wasn't an option for him. And so for the last several years, we've been working together on trying to get that up and running. And I should say, he's been working on it. I've just been kind of along for the ride. But he has got this working now on the Salesforce platform using GearSet. And it's a fantastic job to not only to be entertained by Chris and James as they talk through this process, but it really is a very cool implementation of GearSet use and the DevOps processes to automate the implementation or the migration of, I shouldn't call it migration, the deployment of code throughout our different Salesforce environments. Take a look. Feel free to reach out with questions if you have them. Chris has indicated he's more than happy to try to answer some of those for you. So thanks and enjoy this video. Hey everyone, it's Terry with Terry's Tidbits. I am so glad you're here. I want to welcome specifically Chris Auer. I'm just used to saying Cower because that's how we refer to you. It's Cower. Chris and I'll introduce him more officially later. So he's here to talk. He's our primary speaker. So we'll do a more official introduction here in a second. But here's our agenda for today. Thank you for those who've had lunch. And we're doing our announcements right now. We are going to get started on a salary survey. So at the end of the announcements, Joseph and maybe Karen, you're going to talk a little bit about that. Then we'll jump into our primary presentation with Cower. And then we're switching things up a little bit from what we used to call Terry's Tidbits to now Trailblazer Tidbits, where it's you guys coming with different tidbits and ideas for the group. And Matt Gressley from the Kansas City user group will be presenting on an idea, and Jerome, who's in our room here, is also going to share an idea. I suspect we are going to be done early today, so we'll probably put you out of here, I think, by 1, where we normally would run to closer to 2. So I think we are going to move through things fairly quickly. For those of you who don't know me, I lead the Des Moines user group along with Clarissa, which we've already talked about. Karen and Joseph are in the room. They lead our nonprofit user group, and fantastic people if you don't know them. Anything coming up that you want to share?
We're just continuing with the first Thursday of every month. We've been doing Twisted Bean Coffee Shop on Merle Hay. I know some of you like to join us. We love having admins who are not associated with the nonprofit on to answer questions and to talk about what's up. So you're always welcome to join us. We're easy to find if you're searching for us in the community, but feel free to reach out if you have any questions, but we'd love to see you.
Do you have any nonprofits that are using Nonprofit Cloud yet, or is everybody still on the NS?
We've been talking about it, but I think everyone's still on it.
I think we're all PSP. Yes.
Yeah, I'm recording, so I won't say anymore.
What was that? What time?
We do 8 to 10. And so, I mean, and you don't do that right at 8. Feel free to just drop it.
On Mondays?
On Thursdays of month.
Okay. And maybe I should host our next meeting because I'm not sure that I did that. So anyway, I will make sure that that's up.
All right, and we have our developer user group leaders actually here in person for the first time, Jerome and Sula. I assume you are still doing that or no?
No.
All right.
For the UI independence clause, I had to let go of this position.
Okay, all right. So Jerome's here. You're still leading it, and you'll hear from him later. So I'll update the slide still. But Sulib is here, and he's a good guy too, if you need it.
Can't call it leader.
Yeah. All right, upcoming events. We have our Lunch and Learn. This is our user group meetings. For the admin group, May 16th, we're going to talk about Einstein Analytics Flow Orchestrator in June. I'll be presenting on the 18th on, it's actually, I'm going to change the title of that. It's going to be Beyond No Pink and Loops. It's going to, we're going to talk about flows and how to structure your flows in a very well architected way. So that will be fun. That'll be a brand new presentation. Also presenting that one as an option to Midwest Dreamin'. So maybe I'll be doing that same thing at Midwest Dreamin' and perhaps with Dreamforce once they open up speakers. So like always, you'll be my guinea pig group on everything that I present. Marketing automation in October, Data Cloud, which is fascinating. If you've not dug into Data Cloud, and Holmes Murphy folks, you've got Salesforce here. If you're not talking Data Cloud, probably talk to them a little bit about it. I think it's going to be one of those technologies that change the way we do a lot of what we do, especially if you're dealing with integrations or multiple systems that you're trying to have talk with each other. So if you've not explored Data Cloud yet, I would start exploring that one. Artificial intelligence, so some of the AI stuff that you've seen, we'll do in October, and then we'll do a planning session in November, and then our holiday jingle that we do every year in December. That QR code takes you to our meeting page. None of those are yet posted, so we'll get those posted. Then at least May will get posted up there soon. Community events that are coming up. So these are your Dreamin' events, and those are listed here. The QR code, I think, takes you to the page where all of the Dreamin' events are at. There's far more than what I have here, but these are the ones that are kind of within kind of the main ones here in our area. Put July 17th on your calendar. I'm going to tell you, like I do every year, if there's no excuse not to go to that one. It's cheap and it's just up the road. So put Midwest Dreamin' on your calendar. It's fantastic. It's the second best option outside of Dreamforce, in my opinion. Oh, maybe Trailblazer DX, but third best option. Some of the Salesforce events specifically hosted by them. You got World Tour in New York City in April, and you've got Connections in Chicago in May. Anybody going over for that one? Chicago. Anybody online going to Chicago for Connections?
Mm-hmm.
All right. I'm questioning whether or not I'll go. I'm not sure yet. And then Dreamforce in September. And I know there's at least one person in the room that's planning to go to Dreamforce.
We're good. You go? I'm going.
Yeah. All right, cool. You'll be at Dreamforce as well. Remind me your name. Paul? Awesome. Very good. Anybody else? Are you going, Tanner? No. More Salesforce stuff. If you're not familiar with Salesforce's event calendar, you probably are, because I talk about it every time we do these meetings, but that's an option. Everything Salesforce does is on those calendars. If you're interested in mentoring others on the Salesforce platform or being mentored, the link there is also very popular for people looking to participate in that mentorship program. Community hosted office hours. I mention these, I know, every time as well, but these are fantastic opportunities. If you get stuck and you're just not sure what to do, the MVP office hours is absolutely fantastic. I would say it's better than Salesforce support, which maybe that's not a very high bar, but it's still it's fantastic. I said that too out loud.
We are recording the session.
Yeah. One of the other presentations I'm working on is titled something like, did I say that out loud? Honest, that is a presentation I'm working on. About how to deal with when you got users who come to you with their idea already planned out for you to implement. It's like, how do you say no without being a roadblock? That's sort of a concept. So anyway, that's a rabbit trail. Automation Hour is also fantastic if you're trying to learn flow. I wanted to participate in those, but MVP Office Hour is fantastic. If you're looking to get any certifications, just a reminder, we do have our testing center at DMAC that is still an option for everyone. Anybody planning on doing any certifications, exams?
I'm signed up tomorrow for the nonprofit one.
Awesome. Is that going to be on the nonprofit cloud or is it MTSP still?
It's both, kind of. It's nonprofit cloud consulting
both?
is the certification name, but no, we're expecting you to know some of both.
Okay.
Hmm.
I'm about to do that same one, so I'll be interested in talking to you about that one.
Okay, great.
I'm also looking at doing the next study group on that one. But
Okay.
I'm trying to get that kind of figured out, so. I thought it'd be good if I took the exam before I pledged the study groups.
It's a minor detail.
Yeah,
I'm sure
yeah.
you'll get it right the first time.
Our Slack channel, if you're not a member of that QR code is there. Anybody looking for new job opportunities or you have openings that you'd like to share with the group? If you do, you can do that in the chat or unmute. Feel free to share. Anybody looking? Everybody happy right where they're at? You just got a new job.
I'm starting a new job on Monday, so I'm
Fantastic.
pretty excited about that.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
That is good.
I think there's still job openings at my former employer, Tractor Zoom. If anyone is looking for Des Moines local Salesforce jobs.
Everybody else is happy, or at least you're working with your coworkers here. You don't want to admit it.
Days are just wonderful. I do have a friend remote, but looking for a project manager job. It should be great in an IT company and her background is healthcare. So if anyone's looking for, she's remote though, out in Ohio.
Okay.
So
Okay. Anybody online looking or have any open positions?
Nope.
All right. Anybody get a new certification you want to brag about? Or an attempt that you would like us to celebrate along with you, whether you pass or fail? Yeah,
Yeah.
Integration architect last month.
and you pass it. That's sweet. That's not a. Are you on the architect path to get to the?
Yeah, studying for identity and access, and then I'll be an application and system architect.
That's awesome.
Hmm.
The identity is the one that I found to be the most difficult.
Yeah.
Not to freak you out, but the hard part is it's concepts that we don't use all the time. It's like you use it once, you get it implemented, and you forget about it. But
Yeah.
all of the OAuth flows and how things move back and forth, you'll have to know that really, really well.
Yeah, it'll be a process.
Yeah. In all the certifications that I've done, I failed that one twice. And prior to that, I'd only failed one exam before. So just to give you an idea, that one's a challenge. And when I talk to Salesforce certification people, they say that is the most frequently failed exam that they have.
Really?
Yeah. So good luck. I don't mean to scare you. Steady hard because it's tough. It is a really hard one. But that'll be awesome. If you get that, that's huge. And then getting to that, both the system and technical, or not the technical, but the application architect, that's a huge accomplishment. Are you looking to go to the CTA as well?
I waffle on it.
Yeah.
So I think about it and sometimes I'm motivated to do it. And other times it's like, well, I don't really know what it's going to do for me. I'm not really sure.
Yeah, that's kind of where I've been too. I've opted not to do it partially because it's like $10,000 that comes out of my own pocket, which is a lot. And I don't know that it gains me much at this point either. But yeah, that's awesome though to get into the two. That's very, very good. Any other community announcements? Anything else going on? All right, well, welcome everybody. And our next thing up, I believe, is our salary survey. So Joseph and Karen. Talk.
Oh, hey, everyone. So some of you have been asking, when are we doing the next salary survey? The answer is right now. So if you're not familiar, we as a community come together and try to get as many people as possible to participate in an Iowa salary survey. We didn't do it last year, but we've done it most years before. So we try to do it annually. We call it annual to motivate ourselves to try to do it every year. We are opening it today. I just posted it in the community, and then this QR code will take you to the survey. It's super quick. It should take you maybe 5 minutes. It's all questions you'll likely know off the top of your head. What's your salary, your age, your education, those type of questions. And then Karen and I will compile and present back to the group. We also have on file the results and presentations from our historical surveys. I know that I've used this many times, well, anytime I've gone to apply for a job or try to figure out where I'm landing in the ecosystem. And I would also add that we try really hard to make sure that we're respecting everyone's privacy. So it's anonymous, and as we're compiling the data, we're being very conscientious of not publishing the results in a way that people could say, like, oh, well, that's clearly Joseph. I now know how much money he makes. So we'll try to respect everyone's privacy. And this is great for all of us. I'm always so excited to see what the numbers tell us, and how we can all make sure that we're getting paid what we're worth. Anything else to add?
No, we just always try to have a few new questions, or to make sure that we've revised it to consider different changes that have occurred. You know, we had more questions about, are you working from home or hybrid, or how is that working during the pandemic? And we've revised it a little bit since that was a couple years ago since we asked that. I think we added a question about which cloud people are using, so that we can figure out, okay, how many different instances we have, or different kinds, so you can kind of see whether the salary is affected by which one you're working with. So, and if you have any suggestions for questions that we could add, if you feel like there's something, you know, clearly missing from that, we'd be happy to take that as feedback. So we've got that for the next time around.
Awesome. And it looks like we had a question come through on the chat.
Oh,
Someone
let me find.
reveal the question.
Yes, the question. Do you want us not from Iowa to complete? So those that are not in Iowa.
Yeah, I guess it depends. If the company is from Iowa, that would still be useful. Like if you work for a company that's based in Iowa and you live in Ohio, we had questions we were trying to figure out, you know, how that is working. I think that if we're talking about people who are here, but they live in Kansas City and they work for a company from New York, that would be less helpful for people from Iowa to use as their reference points. So
Do you
ask people where they're from.
Do you?
Part of it. Do we?
Yeah.
We ask people where their company's from. I think at the end we do say, hey, you're in Iowa, right?
Right, just to confirm.
Okay.
At the end, I like that. At the end. Yeah.
That's right.
Not
Well,
the
I
beginning.
next year.
No, we hate to turn information away, but we do want to make sure that it's valid and useful for the people who are in Iowa. Because clearly we've got differences. We start opening up nationwide, that would be very different results.
Yeah.
Good question. Thank you.
Very true. Thanks for asking that, Chris. All right, so Chris, you're up next. But Chris or Coward, however you want to call him. Chris and I and James Williamson is also on the call. We've there's James, this is Chris. We've been working together probably for the last 3 years, you think, James?
Yeah,
Probably about that.
give or take.
And Chris and James were both are like MVP level folks with Site4, which is I don't know if you want to call that a content management system for website type stuff. Is that fair?
Yeah, it's a customer experience. It's a marketing automation, email, mobile, web.
One of their customers was switching over to the NPSP. And that's how we got to know James. James reached out and found me and my team, and we've worked together now for about 3 years on a nonprofit, very large nonprofit. I don't know if that'll be shared at all or not, but
Yeah, it's fine.
so U.S. Master Swimmers is the nonprofit out of Florida, headquartered in Florida, but they're national. And if you go to that website is all managed by these guys. Is that fair to say?
Yep. Yeah. It's we've been with them for about 7 years and going through a very slow digital transformation where we started with web and then went to community. And the big move was to retire old homegrown PHP system, membership system, in favor of Salesforce. And we've all been exposed to Salesforce for a long time, but didn't know enough of it that we didn't want to architect it, right? So Terry saved us from ourselves many times.
I brought my hammer.
Yeah, Terry and Kylie, actually both.
So Chris is like one of these crazy smart developer guys, full stack developer. He has done some amazing stuff on working through some of the DevOps and getting things set up to where deployment becomes much easier. He is way smarter than me, and you're going to learn a lot from him as he kind of walks through this. So Chris, I'm going to be quiet. I'm going to let you take over. I'll stop sharing and let you take it from here.
If you can send I can share my screen. Awesome. Screen.
Feel free to interact, ask questions as we go through this. Some of this technology, it honestly, even for me, some of it I'm still trying to figure out and understand. So don't feel like your question is too basic to ask.
And the biggest thing about this is that there's points where it's deploying, right? And that's going to be like a minute of nothing while it's deploying. So at that point, if you want to ask a question or have a conversation or whatever it is, I can show you other parts of gear set and stuff like that during it. But yeah, we're going to get. So the first thing I want to note is that I'm going to talk about this from a very high level, right? I'm not going to be, from what I understand, there's not a lot of DevOps. I think Scott was who I was talking to on chat pre to this, so he's using gear set. But I gather there's not a lot of DevOps going on in here. So I'm going to talk about it from a high level. We can certainly have conversations that are much deeper, just so that I don't want to give you the fire hose, preview here. So, so let's get into it. So, why don't you move? There we go. All right. So me, as Terry was saying, so I wrote my first line of code when I was 7. That was 1978. And I've basically been in computers my entire life. Perl, all the way back to like crazy languages and stuff like that. I've been .NET for 20 years. I'd say me and James have known each other for 22, probably, James, somewhere in that area. Mm-hmm. And we've been through 2 different companies. One was very large, and now we're in a very small company. It's much more pleasant that you can go and work exactly what you want to work in, not work in everything, which is tough. But .NET guy, ecom, really a server guy at heart, which is what brings me to DevOps, is that I was in charge of all the servers at the large company plus development. And so you have to figure out, how do I go to all these servers? Like we're talking like 350 VMs or something like that, and how do you go to these things and be organized about it? So that's where I got my stuff. So we're part of Bonfire, me and James, small agency, right now focused. We still focus. I wouldn't say we focus on Sitecore as much as we just know it, so we do it. But we're mainly focused on Salesforce right now. That's kind of our path forward. I did Sitecore for 7 years, 8 years, MVP 5 times, which is nice. Took me around the world because they're Copenhagen based. Mm-hmm. So a lot of stuff in Europe and stuff like that. So a lot of fun. I started doing Salesforce with Terry, as you know, and I got a lot of kids. And
yeah, he does.
That picture's Ethan. That's Ethan up there. Everybody loves Ethan. He smiles about everything. He's always smiling. All right, and so what we're gonna do, we're gonna go over Salesforce DevOps. Why do we need Salesforce DevOps? What's the purpose of it? Just let me say something.
Hey, yeah, you got a question, I think.
Oh, what is BT pickleballer?
Yeah, that's I picked up pickleball a year ago. I'm in Vermont. That's where I'm located right now, is Vermont.
Okay.
I picked up pickleball a year ago, and God, I love it. I play it. I love it. If anybody wants to be social and wants to get outside, I know post-pandemic things are kind of weird, stuff like that. Play pickleball. Okay. You get friends, you got friend groups, you'll be outside all the time. You're like, it's amazing. And so we're gonna go over why do you need DevOps, what is DevOps, and then we're gonna, if everything works out great, fingers crossed, the demo gods are gonna be on my side. We're gonna do a live demo of using DevOps. Then we'll have Q&A. Anyone online want to talk, reach out. So the question is, what is DevOps, right? And the technical definition of DevOps is just where development and operations comes together, right? If you go back a while back, development's doing their stuff and we're trying to deploy stuff. And then all of operations is separate. They're a totally different group of people who's monitoring security, who's monitoring uptime, who's monitoring whether the thing even works, all that kind of stuff, right? And I don't know how long ago it is. I'm going to say it's like 12 years ago, DevOps is born. And because of tooling and because of things like Jenkins, who was kind of one of the early ones, right? Because of the early stuff, you're able to start using tools and pipelines to be able to monitor the code from beginning all the way to end. And once it's in production, keep going from that point forward. Is it still doing what it's supposed to do? All that kind of stuff, right? But the heart of DevOps is control. That you're going to limit the number of human factors that are allowed to be inside your processes from beginning to end, that the humans interact with it as little as humanly possible, and all the rest of it is systems. That systems that you build and modify and grow and make better and better. And that's what DevOps is. It's now a large system, and you can be any part of it. You can be on the testing side or the code side or whatever you want to be. But it's the whole purpose of it is to make deployments and monitoring, all that kind of stuff easy. And I can think back to the beginning when me and Terry first started working together, that we had this blank nonprofit Salesforce, and we're trying to deploy all of our stuff, massive amounts of code that we've written, trying to deploy this code into production and through the environments. And we're all working inside of partial and working inside of full, and we're on calls. Me, Terry, 3 other people are on calls, and we're trying to push this stuff to production. And did I get all the pieces? Fingers crossed. Hope I did. And James was yelling at me the entire time. We're not doing it the way we're supposed to do it. Like, what are we doing? And it was my job to come up with how do we get there. And this is to talk about how I got there, right? So why do we need DevOps? And hands, all right? And I always say when we're on calls, no handsies, no touchies, right? How did it get there? You can't RDC into a server. You can't do the stuff. You can't, and James in particular, you can't go into full and make a change. You can't go in and change the thing you want because you want it to be done right now. It has to go through the process. And I call it the wickets right now. And when I say that, he knows what I'm talking about. But if you allow people, humans, to do things to environments that you are needing to have reliability on, that's what's called a snowflake. We all know what a snowflake is, right? It's unique. Nothing in the world is exactly like this one. So if you mess with your environments, your UATs, your stage, your pre-prods, your prods, they're never going to be trustable. You can never trust them once you modify them. You can never trust that what I'm about to go to production with is going to work if you messed with full, right? So no drama. Works great. Roll back if it doesn't go. And like, you're not up at 2 o'clock in the morning trying to deploy and stuff like that. So this is your typical, if you look for an image of DevOps, you're going to find this image, right? And it's that kind of thing where you're going to code it, you're going to build it, you're going to test it, you're going to release, you're going to deploy it, you're going to monitor it, and it comes back. And it's a circle of life. And in a really simple world, you got one developer and one PM or one QA. You code something, you test something, you deploy something, that code comes back to him. The next ticket he creates has that code in it, and so on and so on and so on. But that's your typical DevOps model. And this is the model that we're going to talk about today, right? You've got a developer who's got his own scratch environment. It's been brought off of production. Did anybody have a question? I heard a voice. No, okay. So you got a scratch that came from production, right? You refreshed it, and you're going to start a new ticket. You're going to create your objects, your flows, your permissions, whatever it is your ticket needed to happen, right? You're going to create your metadata. And now you have to get that metadata under control, right? This is the control aspect of it. I'm not sure how many here use Git directly. It seemed like it was a kind of a foreign thing when I first started talking about it with Salesforce, the idea of going directly using VS Code, Git, monitoring your branches. But if you are that kind of person, you're writing Apex code and whatnot, you're going directly against Git, this is you. But I think the vast number of people, and maybe the vast number of people on this call right now, aren't going to go directly to Git. They're going to be, what I heard the other day, it was clicks in code. I never heard that before. Where you're a clicker, which is what James is, or a coder, which is what I am. So which part of it? I think most people are clickers. And so we can have the orchestration model, right? And the orchestration model is that you do your work in Salesforce, and then the system, the DevOps, the systems in place are going to get that code under control into a pipeline and then deploy that. So the last time that you touch the code is going to be after you finish your work in the sandbox, right? So as you go through all the wickets, no hands. There's no notes that you're like, hey, don't forget to create a field called this with a description of this, right? It's done in your dev, and now it goes on its way. And this is that wall I'm talking about. This is the end of human hands. There's no human interaction past that wall. So the first thing is you're going to do your code, get it into the system, and then it's going to go to UAT. DevOps is going to put it in UAT. And in UAT, you're going to test your ticket. Whoever else has to test your ticket, make sure it does what it's supposed to do. And then it moves us on the way to stage. And in stage is where the customer tests their ticket, whatever it is. This is the last chance for us to say, this thing is perfect, does exactly what I want to do. And the key here is that the thing that went to UAT is the exact same thing that went to stage. There's this idea in coding, like C# coding and stuff like that. Build once, deploy many. And build once, deploy many means that I'm going to build it once, I'm going to deploy it around the world with this one piece of code. And I know that the thing that works in A is going to work in B, C, D all the way through. I didn't make a build for B, I make a build for C, make a build for D, one build, send it everywhere. That's equals reliable, right? So then the package is going to make its way to production. It's going to work out great because you tested it all the way. You have no snowflakes in between. Everything's great. You're going to sleep great at night. And the last step is to bring that code back. So the next feature that a developer has to pull is going to have the code that's just inside production so that he's able to now send that code to the wickets and whatnot, right? And this is kind of the way that it looks overall, right? You got many developers working on many features, and then all those features are making their way through all the wickets, and all that kind of stuff, making its way through the environments, right? And then from a large idea, like this is what DevOps looks like now, right? It used to be this small thing, and now it's all encompassing, right? Issue management, where the ticket is written at, source tracking, who's in charge of keeping that metadata, who's in charge of keeping changes that we can go through. Design is how you can do it, clicks versus code. Code quality, if you're a company that says that code has to be written in a very specific way with a very specific naming convention that you're using, fors versus, whatever else, and all that kind of stuff. And then deployment, which is what we're talking about today, one little piece, deployment, testing, is it working? Keep an eye on production, keep an eye, did somebody put something that broke the code? And if somebody did put something that broke the code, loud alarms, right? What was that thing called, James, way back? It was the siren of shame.
Yeah.
I don't know if people remember that, where when you would break the build in DevOps, a light would go off over top of your desk because you broke the build. That's embarrassing. And testing, collaboration, who do I tell, how do I tell, who monitors it, all that kind of stuff. And then metadata management is interesting because metadata management really isn't like source control. It is more about what did my Salesforce look like on January 2nd? What was the Apex like? What were the things like? Because you want to know what the changes were along the way, so you can figure out if there's a problem and stuff like that. So it's not a data backup as much as just like all metadata. What did it look like? Now you could use Git, but I wouldn't use it. I would track it individually, do a backup every night or every hour or whatever it is you want to do. And this brings us to the demo. I hope the gods are there with me to go through it. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna write a little bit of code, really, hello world, vanilla stuff, nothing exciting, and we're gonna put it into our sandbox, and we're gonna run it through the wickets, and we're gonna see how it gets there. And you guys can compare it in your heads to like, what does that look like compared to how you do it, right? So let's get out of there and let's get into this one. This is our guy. So this is being recorded, so it's gonna be good. I wanted to put this into the chat. Where is the chat at? Right there. All right, there's two links. The second link is a YouTube video, which is of Salesforce DevOps. That's brand new. They just came out with that. They released source tracking, maybe two or three releases ago, maybe, Terry. And now they've actually got DevOps, which is going to do this, right? I'm not sure. My job over the next couple of months is to try it and do one of these talks about it and really see how it compares to GearSet. GearSet's a paid-for product. Wouldn't it be nice if you didn't have to pay for it, And we'll have to see. We'll have to see how it's their first iteration. So how good can it really be? But maybe it looks the same as GearSet, but let's see how it operates, right? And then the first one is my control is Git. That's the behind the scenes for me is Git. That's a Git repo of like a completely empty Salesforce with all default objects that are in it. right? So when you're in here and you're going to create a new repo in Git, you're going to say, well, copy the repo from another repo, and that's the repo you copy it from. And that gets you to this, what you see right now. This is out of the box Salesforce. This is a copy of what it is. And I've been messing with it and stuff like that, right?
Chris,
Yeah.
explain Git to those that may not understand what that means.
Yeah, so Git's been around for a very, very long time, like Unix kind of like long time. And what Git does is it allows you to make a commit. And if I can show this, and I don't want to scare you away, this is just how it looks, right? But this is what Git looks like. This is Git extensions for Windows, stuff like that. But what it does is that you get to make a commit. That one's too big. You get to make a commit that has a specific change in it, and you get to see exactly what changed on each one of these things. Do I have one where it's got a change? Here's a change. That all got deleted, but that's still ugly looking.
But Chris, real high level, the Git is code management, code storage, and version control, and then kind of wires into release management at some level, which is what you'll get into, right?
Yeah. It's you make a change, you make a commit, and then you're able to see that commit and who changed it, what changed, and then you're often what's called a branch, and then those branches get merged back into other branches. And it's source control. Everybody if you're in the C# Redux kind of world, everybody's using Git, and it looks tough, but it's very easy to get used to.
So if I'm in the environment I'm supposed to be in, and I'm doing the clicks versus code, I'm making changes to an object, adding a field, changing pick list.
Yep.
That makes its way eventually back into Git and gets versioned, and they know that I did it. So when I break it, I get the red light.
Yeah. Because you'll know what branch went, right? And then the way that we keep UAT separate from stage,
Good explanation.
that it's in its own branch, right? And a branch, it just it's like a tree, right? It comes off the branch at a very specific point, and then it's there, and then eventually that branch comes back into the main branch, and that gets deployed in production. I'll try to show that as we're going through.
Hang on just a second. We got a comment here.
Go ahead.
So I just did a review of Salesforce DevOps Center, and I had a similar conversation with admins around how Git plays into Salesforce development, especially for those that aren't developers that are used to working with the actual XML files and things like that are focusing on click versus code. And the fundamental idea that you have to understand when you're doing clicks in Salesforce is that on the back end, everything that you're changing is represented by a file. There's different files for fields, for objects, for flows, for all this stuff. But at the very high level, it all boils down to a whole bunch of different files.
Mm-hmm.
Salesforce automatically stores those files in different folders. And what he's showing here is some of that folder tree structure. What Git does is it's a version control system. And all that means is it's a place where you can upload files, and it will tell you a history of what changed and when and by who. In Salesforce, an equivalent would be if you go into setup and you see a field was last changed by Paul on Tuesday, that's the latest change. What a version control system allows you to see is over time who made changes, and more specifically, what changes were made. The other advantage of a version control system is it identifies conflicts. So if you've ever had a deployment or you deployed something into production and you've overwritten a change that somebody else made because you were working on the same thing at the same time and you didn't communicate, a version control system automatically detects those things. And before it allows you to update a file, it'll point out, hang on, before you do, someone else made a change to the same file. You need to see what changes you want to keep. And it puts a little bit of safeguards around managing all the changes that you're making. And so that's how version control systems like Gitbucket, all those other types of version control systems really fit into the Salesforce development cycle.
Yeah, and if I can show you, so like everything inside Salesforce is just a representation of XML, right, inside there. So this is what a flow looks like. A flow is just decisions and rules. So you can take that flow and turn it into a file. And once it's a file, you're able to then track the changes line by line, what changed and who changed it. Mm-hmm. I know I'm a very technically talking person. I apologize for that, but it's very tough for me. I apologize. All right. So we've got to my first step here is that I have to create some branches for us to use here, right? So I've got my main branch, which is just what I copied from the other one. So I'm just going to create 3 new branches here, and it's going to be 2 new branches, UAT and stage. Right. So I got UAT and I've got stage. All right. So I got those. Now I want to add. So what I've done, I've already added some of the environments, but I just want to show you how simple it is to add other environments that we're going to use. So when you add an environment, you're just making a very simple reference to a Salesforce instance that's already logged in and all that kind of good stuff, right? So I'm going to connect. I'm going to connect to my dev environment, and I'm just going to put in my login for that dev environment. It's going to go to test, authorize, and hopefully it just pops because I'm already logged in. All right, let's get that guy. Let me just make sure it's right, so I don't have to go through that. Boom. And it'll come back and it'll happen. So I got my Devo 1, Devo 2, UAT, stage, and production when it makes its way back.
And we're using gear set here. Do you have to use gear set, Chris?
There's 2 alternatives. There's the Salesforce DevOps, and then there's the one that's in my slide deck. I was talking to Scott about that. It is Capado.
Oh, right.
So Capado is very similar to a gear set.
We do it too. Yeah, that's good. The person in the chat.
Yeah. If you're hardcore, you could just use code, right? You can actually create a flow and then in Visual Studio Code, right click, pull that flow down and go through all the wickets if you're really hardcore. I don't imagine most people are that hardcore.
Mm-hmm.
We've got a Jenkins user there for as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh, Jenkins can do?
Might have to chat with that person later.
Yeah, because Jenkins is a really good orchestration. Orchestration, but they might have add-ons to talk to Salesforce, and that's how they can do it. Like, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All
right. So now we've got our stuff. Now we just need to create all the pieces, right? So behind the scenes, we're gonna go to our continuous integration CI, and behind the scenes of the whole thing are just some CI jobs. Their job is just to keep Git connected to Salesforce and keep those 2 in sync. So we're gonna create. I'm not gonna do team share just to make my life easier, right? And we're gonna create a UAT, and it is gonna be from GitHub. So now it's connected to my GitHub account via one of the things. And I can type in demo, and it's called demo 2. And my branch for UAT is obviously UAT. And it's connected to the UAT instance of Salesforce. So Git, with all of its stuff connected to UAT, easy peasy. A lot of questions about how do you want it to deploy or just validate? Do you want it to delete items as well as add items? We're going to say no to all that versus you just add items, all that kind of stuff. We got tests. Do you want it to run specific tests or just regular Salesforce tests? So we're going to do all vanilla right now.
So those are the same types of questions you get with a change set if you are picking up on that.
Yeah. And we're just using it's only going to compare Apex and custom objects and stuff like that. Nothing could you can see how many different types of metadata that gear set can keep track of. The more you add, the longer it takes to do these comparisons and stuff like that. So that's what I'm just trying to make these things not take as long as they possibly could. No big deal. That deployment gates is about do you want to require somebody else to say yes before you can do it? It's some sort of team, some sort of agreement, and then notification will send you emails and all that kind of stuff. So that gets me, I'm going to add a webhook, which is a webhook back to GitHub. So GitHub tells it when a change has happened. It alerts this system, a change has happened, go do something. All right, so we got that. So now that's my UAT. I need 2 more. I'm just going to create those things really quickly. I need one for stage and one for production. We're going to do it the exact same way, which is just going to be GitHub.
So Chris, is what you're defining here is the path of how information is going to move from that dev environment up through the 3 different, the UAT, the staging, and then into production.
Yeah, this is how does the code go from Git, which is the source tracking, up to the certain environment. You're defining that this branch is connected to that instance of Salesforce. Mm-hmm. So we're just going to say next, and go through that. And I need one more for production. Call that guy prod. Demo. Boom. That should be set to main, and now we're going to say prod. So now we've got our 3 guys that are connected, next, all the way. And they're running right now. They're just getting themselves to like, they're just sending any changes. Now there should be no changes. You can see this all zeros. Nothing changed in this last deployment because we didn't add anything to it. Right, so these guys, that one's done. So we're going to wait for prod. Prod's going to get done. So now we need to know. Now we just need to create the DevOps pipelines, which is like step to connect to those jobs. So we're going to go to pipelines and we're going to create a new pipeline. And we're going to call it whatever we want. We're going to call it DevOps. It's a GitHub repository. And now we just say, well, what's the repository? And then what is, and this is kind of the key, what is the default branch for creating a new feature? And that kind of goes back to this guy right here. Let me move these comments out of the way. This guy right here. So this idea of the code coming back for the next feature. You're saying, what branch am I going to use? And the answer is, I'm going to use one in production. Main is in production right now. That's the one I want to use. So we're going to use that. We're going to leave everything else the way that it is. We're going to click save. And this is just kind of a shell. It's a shell for what's actually going to happen. Another webhook for GitHub to tell the pipeline something has changed. And now we're going to create all the environments. First, we're going to create the static environment, which is UAT stage in production. And we're going to pick from the 3 CI jobs that we just created. So we're going to pick our UAT, save, pick our stage, right? So now we've got pipelines that are talking directly to those CI jobs. CI jobs are the ones that are actually deploying. Right, the work is being done by those CI jobs we created initially, which is just a connection between Git and Salesforce. And now I need a dev environment. So I'm going to create a dev environment. It's my dev01. And we're going to go to, why don't I have my dev01? Do. And that's 1 second. I don't have my Devo1. Oh, here are the deployment gods. Dev. Oh, it has no name. My fault. Devo1. Now we'll go back to it. So we're going to create so you would have like as many developers as you've got, you would have a dev environment for each one of them. So there's my Devo1 now. And I'm the guy who's associated with it. We're going to push save. So we've got the environments now. These are the pipelines, the steps, if you will. And now we just need to organize them, right? So development goes to UAT. UAT goes to stage, and stage goes to production. And we press the save button, it's going to put them all in a line. So this is our flow. The code goes from here to here to here, right? So now my next step is I gotta go do something, right? I got a ticket. The ticket is to go create an object that's called like demo cars or whatever, and go ahead and do it. So I'm gonna go to my Devo1 and I'm gonna create an object. It's demo car is the object. Cars is the plural, and everything else is great. We're going to add a field to it, right? And remember, this new feature is going to be created off of main, which is production. If you want to call it production, go ahead and call it. So I'm going to call it feature, cards ticket. And I'm going to use my demo, and let's see if I can get let's see if my demo, which is a very small comparison, it's tiny. It's only got 4 things, it's 4 pieces of metadata it's comparing. Let's see if I can get it to do it with just that. If not, I'll use the other one. So now what it's going to do, it's going to pull all the metadata from dev, and it's going to pull all the metadata from Git, and it's going to say, what are the differences between these two? I know what's supposed to be there. I know what's there. And we should end up with just the things that we've changed by creating that the demo
Mhm.
the demo cars object in the field. So this is where you kind of wait while it does it.
While that runs, you mentioned something too, I didn't want to gloss over, that everybody is in their own org.
Every developer is in their own org. You cannot, and this is perfect by the way. So the UAT, the stage, production are static. You cannot do anything with those environments in this situation. You can't go from UAT to Git. It's not even allowed in the way that it's built, because you have to start in an org, right? Your UAT, stage, production, all your environments, all your lower level environments, they have to stay clean. They cannot be snowflakes. Nobody can touch them. You can only test in them.
So if you and I are developers in an org, would you have your own dev environment and I'd have my own dev environment, and that would then all flow through?
I would have CGA, you would have Terry, James would have James. No, we'd all have our own, and we'd get our own ticket. We'd refresh them from production all the time. We get a ticket, we work it, it goes in, and on its way it goes. Yeah, I guess we could share if we wanted to, but it would make this kind of hard if we're sharing. And the scratches are free, right? You know, So I've got all my bits here. Now, hopefully I push this button, and as I probably should explain. So this is the metadata that it took to create that object. There's an object and there's a layout, there's permissions. All these things are what drives that object. And now for us to transfer this from one environment to the other, all these objects have to go with it, right? So, and you would be really surprised at how many different metadata pieces it takes to organize a deployment. You know, it could be hundreds to do something that's relatively simple. So we're gonna say next. So now it's gonna say, is there anything wrong? Did anything missing? So there's one found, and it is that one. Darn it, there's that one. So it's gonna want to remove. Can I go without that? I'm gonna go without that. Let's see if it goes. So it's gonna remove the demo test, but that should be okay. So this is about, we're about to commit. We're about to take these changes and put them into Git. I know Git's kind of confusing if you haven't haven't really experienced Git too much, but we're going to submit a change, and one row is going to end up inside Git that says this change happened by this person, and here's why they did it, right? So I'm working on a future car ticket, and that's my note, so we can see what it is, and we're going to say commit. So now Gearset is writing this commit to Git for us. And when it's done, what I can do is if I come over here to Git now, you'll see there's a new branch called featured cars. And if I go to commits, you'll see that there's a commit that just happened called featured car ticket. And inside of this commit are all the files that changed. Right, this is the actual object, right? Which one is this? That's translation. This is the actual car object and all the properties and stuff like that go along with it. The field is in here. Everything is in here. The permissions are in here. This one commit is holding all of that. And if you imagine, it's a branch of a tree. It's off all by itself. It's not part of anything else just yet. So now there's a thing called a pull request. And what a pull request is it is asking permission of whoever's in charge of managing the Git and the branches. Can I pull my code in to the main branches? And it's going to do lots of checks to make sure there is no conflicts, there isn't problems, all that kind of stuff. So I'm going to say create a pull request. I'm going to give it a name, car feature. Now, usually what you do in here is that if you're in a large organization, you would put in the ticket number, what it's for, everything about it, so the person who's evaluating the pull request would know. In a small organization, you're doing it for yourself. So I'm going to create a pull request, and that's going to create a pull request in Git. I'm not going to show you that. I think I'll just add to the confusion, but it's in there. And now I've got this new little guy here. And this new little guy is saying that here's a pull request. Do you want to move this pull request up into the next environment? So I'm going to promote it. So this is, if I had done 17 changes here, there would be 17 lines underneath this feature cars. And if there was more than one feature being worked on by more than one developer, all these features would be stacked up. It's really beautiful. So the validation that's running right now against this thing of can it even go into the environment in front of us? We know it's going to be able to do it. We're going to say promote. So what's going to happen now is that pull request is going to be approved. The code will be moved into the UAT branch. Gearset will be notified that there's been a change to the UAT branch, and these CI jobs that are under the covers, where's UAT, have been notified from GitHub. There's been a change to UAT. Go ahead and deploy those changes, right? All we've done is we branched, put some code in there, and we merged it back into UAT. UAT was notified, and away we go. So it's downloading the metadata, which is just down. It's good. Now it's going from UAT to Git. It's validating this thing can even go inside of there, all that kind of stuff. Now, while that's doing that, I'm going to show you another part of Gearset that's going to be important towards. So it validated, the validation succeeded. Now it's getting ready. CI is more than about just deploying, right? It's a whole thing, it's a whole organization. So you can do stuff like monitoring. And what monitoring does is it tells you, has anything changed yesterday? And this is really important for UAT and stage and production and stuff like that. It's important for, do you have somebody who's going into UAT and making changes? You can create a monitoring job, right? We can call it UAT. It's looking at the UAT server, whatever rule sets you want to do, complications. I don't want to get too deep into that. And you can just push save. And what's going to happen is this thing's going to run once today. And every single day, this thing's going to run and tell you the next day, did anything change yesterday? If it did change, who changed it? So you'll be able to know, come in every day, did anything change in production yesterday? Because it's not supposed to. Nothing's supposed to change in production. Did anything change? And if it does, you can say, hey, hang on 1 second. Gary, why'd you change that?
Yeah.
Now we got to move that change back to the beginning, right? We got to run it through UAT, run it through stage, all that kind of stuff. Right. So that's one of the things UAT, that one thing that Gearset can give you is, and part of that DevOps is the monitoring side. Keep an eye on how things are going, right? Now, if we come back to CI, did our guy go? He's still running a job. UAT is still spinning. And once this thing is done, we'll be able to go into UAT and we'll see that object we created is there now. This is kind of that dead spot that I talked about. It's like, oh, this time taking. But
so that monitoring, Chris, that's how you know when I change something in full when I'm not supposed to. And that's what you get the earful from you and Terry.
Yeah, it says things have changed and it tells you exactly what it is that changed and who changed it.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's really important because again, it's really, really important.
Yeah.
Snowflakes, because I know that I didn't even know it until Terry showed me that some people actually go into the the developer console and open up a class and change the class. They code there. It's like crazy the idea of it, but somebody could go in there and change an Apex class to like add a really quick validation or add a fix or something like that.
Yeah.
And once that's done, can you really test any more code going forward? Like the code that's in there doesn't match any of the code anywhere else. So it's like a test could work in stage, and you have no idea why it works and blow up in production. And if you didn't have a snowflake in stage, you would be okay there. This is taking forever.
Yeah.
Hey, take a look at the chat, Chris.
Yeah.
See if there's anything there that it looks like you have some comments. I don't know if there's questions there or not.
Oh,
Looks like Shane just did this.
somebody, they're just getting started with Gearset right now.
That's great.
Yeah, and just take a note of my email, whatever it is. You got any questions or whatever, just let me know. And and at the efforts of if you know what dog fooding is eating what you make, right? So you can't like say something and then not actually use it yourself. And the effort of dog fooding, I'll show you in the end what it is that we've got running, and you can see I'm actually using this stuff for years. Using this stuff. So is it done yet? God, gee.
We had what do we have, Chris? We had Terry. I think you and one other guy doing dev in the early parts, and then it was mostly Chris and Lou.
Yep.
And Kylie was making a lot. She was in flow and doing admin stuff really heavily. So we had a lot of people, when we were working on the main build.
Yeah, and you got me, Lou, and Carlos all doing Apex code.
Yeah.
You and Kylie and Terry are doing click code.
Yeah.
And it's all just happening in like an environment.
Yeah.
And it was the Wild West. Like, who changed that? Why did that break now? And all that kind of stuff. And so while that's going also, I was gonna save it for
Chris, Tanner, what do you got?
What's the benefit of pushing your changes through UAT and then not changing anything and then pushing it to stage? Having multiple steps there.
So you have what are called golden servers, right? And especially in financial institutions, like if you're a place that sells stuff online, you've got golden, that's like the accountants test gold to make sure the money that goes in comes out. So UAT is kind of a rough environment for you as a developer to test your code. Your code went to the UAT, did it work? I know it works in my dev. How many times have we all said it works in my dev?
Yeah.
But UAT is your first spot for you to test, not for the client, not for anybody else. It's for you to test. And if it works there, you can feel pretty good it's going to work in stage. If you just deploy to stage, which is where all the QA people are, you may just break their environment, right? So UAT is a place where you could break it if you wanted to, and it wouldn't hurt too many people. But if you break stage or pre-prod, you're going to cause a disruption inside the business. So you put as many stages in between production and you as it takes to not cause disruptions. And imagine if you're in a place where you've got 35 developers and you broke QA.
Yeah.
You know, QA is broken for 6 hours where you try to fix it or whatever. That's why the UAT, and the UAT is a partial. It's got a limited data in it. It's just for you to go in there and you got a ticket that says do this thing. You in there, you verify. In Bonfire, UAT's done finally. Good. In Bonfire, we've got a thing which is we make videos. We literally make videos of every ticket we do, right? And I always say, prove to me it works. Now, don't show it to me in your dev environment. Go to UAT and make me a video of it working. And the video really isn't for me as much as it is for you. Because when you're trying to make the video to show me it works, you find that it doesn't work. You got to keep fixing it until it does work. And then you can see the video and it works in there. And that's been like a saving grace for us to not push a ticket, move it to QA, and then QA's got to figure out whether it works or not. You know, make a video for me. All right, so it's in UAT.
Chris, there's a question in the chat again.
Oh, yeah.
Have you ran into metadata changes that can't be managed through here? So
No. Everything inside of Salesforce is metadata except for data, right? The data is its own instance, but metadata, systems, profiles, permissions, everything is metadata. And I haven't found anything yet that does not come down in gear set or VS Code or anything. Everything is metadata.
I've had one issue before though using GearSet or FlowSim.
Okay.
And we're between API versions, like our sandboxes have a lower API and then a higher API and then prod has a new one. And sometimes like a flexi page will have a little piece in the XML that doesn't exist in prod. But there was a time when I was working for a company where we had a very similar process, but we had Bitbucket instead of GitHub.
Mhm.
And I was able to strip away that little piece of XML that was new.
Mhm.
That didn't exist in prod and wasn't allowed in prod yet with the new release. So this can be really beneficial, like if you are wanting to strip away just one little thing.
Yeah.
So Bitbucket, like GitHub, is just another product of Git that uses Git. So Git is completely open source. It's completely free. It's managed to this day. It's managed, and GitHub, Azure repos, Bitbucket, it's all just the same thing. They're all using actual Git that's been around for how many years? All you're really changing is the UI. You're making the UI look a certain way for certain people. You know, whichever one you feel more comfortable with is the one you use.
Chris, you got another question in the chat from Matt.
Yep.
You got it.
Yeah. That's where you say the wickets, Chris. Everything goes through the wickets.
Yeah, it is.
It'd be your destructive change. That's right.
Yeah. So it is when you're moving into a heavily modified environment with a lot of technical debt and stuff like that. You're going to have to make that change. And inside of here, let me go to here and pipeline CI, and if I look at UAT, and there's a checkbox right here, deleted items. Like it'll delete items if you ask it to. I don't like to do that. You really got to believe in it. You got to make sure your Git and UAT match perfectly. But if they do match perfectly, if you've done the work and UAT 100% matches metadata wise, and then when you want to delete an object, it'll delete the object in UAT for you when it deploys it. So yeah, so you would want to use this, and it would just get to move slow and methodically. Delete it from UAT, then your next deployment will delete it from stage, and then your next deployment will delete it from production. Then it comes back. Then the next developer, because they had a refresh from production, they don't have that object either, and then so on and so on and so on. So it's a tough spot to be in, dealing with an environment that's been running for a long time. But it certainly can be done. Just move, because you're deleting things, just move cautiously, one at a time, but absolutely it can be done. We all love adding. Adding's easy. Adding and changing. Right. So here we are, we're in UAT. The demo car is there now. The fields are there. Everything is there. And what I want to do is I want to just real quick, I want to do another feature. I want to do another, just so you can see how these two things can operate together. Where is my, this is the visualization of Git, right? It's just, and this is open source, which I love Git extensions. So I'm going to fetch all, and when I fetch all, I'm going to see that feature branch in there, that feature car branch, which is this guy right here. And what I want to do is I want to check out this branch. And we can have a Git call if you want to, and we can do it together. We'll do a class on how to use Git. And but what I want to do is I always want to make a small change, right? So I'm just gonna make a small, simple change to this class right here, and I've got add debug message, and I just want to show. I just want to show Copilot working. I don't know how many of you guys use Copilot. I don't know how many of you guys use Visual Studio, but Copilot is amazing. It's like I do everything in Copilot now. You just say what it is that you want it to do. Get all from. I think it even told me what I was going to do, right? And then you tell it what you want it to do, and it writes the code for you, right? Amazing.
You're saying you didn't type in line 17?
No, it did.
It did.
Yeah, and now it'll make the assumption of what next I want to do. I can say for each, and now it's going to for each bit, right? So if you're using VS Code for your coding, Copilot is like $20 a month, and it'll like I could say like create a new, right? And then that's my new one, and now it's going to try to start filling fields, right? I'm just typing and it's doing each one for me, right? So it filled in the settings and it inserted it into, I did nothing but tab enter. So I've been using it. I want people to use it. It's amazing. And it's $20. And if you want to get ahead of AI replacing your job, become AI, right? Become AI. So I made this very small change here. And what I want to do is I'm just going to go ahead and create a new branch. Do I want to create? I want to create a new branch. Do I? No, I don't. Because it's going to take too long to get there. So here is my Git. Here's the change I made. And there it is right there. Add a code change. And I'm going to go ahead and push that. It's going to stage it. It's going to send it. All right, and now it's up there. And now what I can do is I can come back to here, and hopefully it does exactly what I want it to do. That when I refresh this, we're going to see da 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 da. I want to see. I want to do. Oh boy. There's my code change right there. So I've made my code change back in dev, and I wanted it to get ahead because I don't want to go to UAT again because of the time. But I wanted to get up to a level of stage, right? So in this scenario, what you do is that you do some working in dev and you deploy it. And when you get to UAT, you find you're missing a couple of things. Then you go back and you get some more code, you deploy that. You keep deploying over and over and over again, and the commits keep stacking up until you get exactly what you want. Then that whole thing moves on its way. So you can see here is a deployment that wants to go, which only has my little change in it. It's got this little the demo test class. And I wish they were together, but they're not. So, but you can see how I can use VS Code with Git to make changes directly to Git without using GearSet for anything. So if you're a coder, you can still use GearSet and just do the way you've always done it. Right. So now we're going to deploy to stage. And I'm just going to send this guy. And I just want you to see what production looks like once we get there. So that's going to go and work. Another thing I wanted to show you, GearSet wise, is unit testing.
Before you go there, Chris, on the so if we had a variety of people doing different tickets, those just all stack up then in the environment that it's going to move to next. So
yeah, if I didn't go to stage with that one thing, if I had left it in UAT and I had done like commit, they would have just stacked up.
Okay.
And also, what I also want to show, but I don't have time to show it, would be what happens when two developers are working on two different features. You would have both features in UAT. And you could send one feature if you wanted to, or both features, which is really nice because you could say, that feature is ready to go. Let's go with that feature. Then the other feature, which is a little behind, could just be behind it, Then they could go to production together once because they get to the end of stage together. You can put them together into a release and send them as a release.
Okay, so let's say that our ticket is in staging and our people are testing it. They find a fault in it or something didn't work right. What are you doing then to fix that error?
So if I go to UAT and then they say it doesn't do what it's supposed to do, it does this but not that, then the developer makes a change and he pulls that change in, right? So
where does he make that change? Is he going back to his dev environment then and pushing everything?
So let's say, hey, you forgot to add a big thing. You have to add descriptions to. I want security. You've got to add a description to your field.
Okay.
Where's my field at? Here, demo car. And am I just blind? Am I missing an edit button?
Yeah, I have to say I don't know why you don't have it. Oh, is that the name field? Oh,
Yeah,
that's the name field. It's on
under
your details.
What?
Go to make. Go to the make.
You're right. I'm sorry. Whew. Thank you very much. Live demos, they get you all nerved up. Right. Yeah. So if you needed like I forgot my description field.
Yeah.
Right. We could add this and we could save this. And it's like, oh, I'm sorry for doing that. And then what would happen is that you would just come back to your DevOps again. And what you would do is go here and you would say, I need to commit more changes to this feature. I'm going to use compare 2.0 just because it's going to be a lot faster. And I'm just going to do custom fields. So this is going to get all the metadata up. I say it's faster than it's not. Working in sandboxes is slow, which is unfortunate.
So the process is you always go back then to your dev environment.
Everything. You don't do anything in UAT. Oh, it's easy. It's easy to go to UAT and add
It
a
is.
description.
Sure is.
Add notes for the deployment people. It's
Yeah.
Come on, go faster. I'm in a live devo gear set. And really, it's not gear set, it's Salesforce. But that'll eventually come up. And let me go to gear set over here on this side. And while we're doing that, while that guy's coming up, what was that guy's unit testing. So you can create a unit test job, and it can run every single day at a certain time, whatever it is. You know, we can call it UAT. And you have your, what is your code coverage? What does it need to be? And we're going to look at UAT, and we're going to save. And now this guy's going to run, and it runs I get an email every single day from every environment, and tells me exactly where unit testing is at. You're above or below. Our number is 90%. So if you're above or below 90%, it sends an email in the morning and says that you're at 89%, which is then my thing to say, I got to create a ticket, call in the developers. We had to get above that, you know, go write some unit tests that you forgot to get above 90% again. But this guy's going to run, and he's going to send notifications and all that kind of stuff. Again, that's part of DevOps, right? DevOps is using processes to make sure things are where they're supposed to be. Don't rely on humans to tell you what things are. Make the system do it. Send an email to QA or whoever, dev team lead, and your environment by environment. So maybe there's a team lead for UAT and a team lead for stage, you know, to go in and say, it's not where it's supposed to be. Let's go ahead and fix that. And this guy didn't even come up, which is wonderful. Is the stage still running? Did stage go?
I have a question in the chat.
Yes, the stage is done. I'll answer the question in 1 second. I just want to push the button on this guy.
Yep.
The only thing I want to show you is that once you get to production, let's say I've got 5 features that are going in this ticket, right? We're in a sprint. We've done 5 things. You can click all 5 of them, and you can say create a release. And the release is nice because it's going to package it all together and send the entire thing as one. And at this point, you could pick 4 out of 5, 3 out of 5, you know, 1 out of 5. This is your point to say, I'm only going to send one thing. You don't have to send the entire thing. Like, they're all organized separately. Like, nothing has made its way back into made and stuff like that. So I can say create a release. You know, this is my April release. And it's going to go to production with it. And you're going to go to production, you're going to find that change there. And that guy's going to run. And I'm going to go back to here real quick. I'm going to click this, then I'm going to answer that question. A bit more. I'm just going to let me do demo, because demo is tiny. All right, on to the question. Anything special needs for flows? I can show you, I can create a flow real quick and show you. Nothing special. Flow is just metadata. You create a new one, you see it. The only thing is that versions don't go, right? If in dev you're on version 64, guilty, and what's in production is version 13, it'll deploy version 14, but it won't activate it. You have to go into production or wherever you're going and activate it by hand. I don't know of a way yet to auto activate flows, but it will just. There's a flow, and then there's another metadata that's called flow. Something else, and that something else is the version number, and it doesn't let you track the version numbers. So you just you can just send a flow, a change to a flow, anything. It'll send it, go to production, push the activate button, and like I can do right now. Well, that's all coming down. Oh, I didn't put flows into there, but here's my description change, right? So on the right hand side is what it used to be, and the left hand side is what it is now. So we've added. I forgot my description to description. I can check that, say next. Do summary, give it a word, commit. And now this thing's going to be at the head of UAT now, ready to be deployed. Still inside the same feature, still inside cars, right? And you can see now we've got the code change I made and the description change I just made inside of that one feature. So these things, all these commits will stack up and stack up and stack up all together. They're organized together. Another feature doing different stuff. They're not going to commingle and mix it all up and stuff like that. Super convenient, and you can just pick which one you want it to go and stuff like that. But yeah, and the second one was, is there any one on Hyperforce? I thought when I created these sandboxes, when I created them, I thought that Hyperforce was like any new sandbox will be on Hyperforce when I created these. Is there a way for me to know? Doesn't the
Yeah.
name, the environment?
You'd have to go see what
Company.
environment or you're on, which is in my company.
The info, right?
Yeah. So, Chris, we're kind of running up against some time
Oh,
here.
sorry.
How are we doing on what you wanted to show?
We're doing great. So I'm gonna push the button and it's gonna go to production. I think it's already gone.
Yep.
Oh, it's going right now. So it's gonna go to production and it'll be in production. And the key here is just that between development and UAT, I touched nothing on all those environments. It was all done by the system, and that's like the most important thing. Oh, I wanted to show you dog fooding, right? So dog fooding, right, I'll bring this over here real quick. So this is our gear set for our environments. Like literally using this code is ready to go. This is the code Lou's on production right now, Lou. This is James, this is a lat long code change.
Yep.
It's ready for prod. It's made it through the environment so you can do it. And when it comes to like the DevOpsy side, right? I've released 1,462 times to this QA environment. So I've built and released that many times to this QA. You can't go into QA with RDC and change stuff. Everything is done. So Azure Functions, this is how we release Azure Functions. And what's nice about Azure DevOps is you're able to see what version is inside of each environment. You know, like that version's in QA, that version's in LaneMate, that version's in production. You can see them all, right? So it's like, we use DevOps for literally everything. And if we don't, James yells at us, which is great. Good job, James. And but everything we deploy is being built. Pipelines are building it. So here's all the pipelines that build code. And they've all got, I don't know if you've ever seen a pipeline before. They're like all steps of like what you want to do. You know, download NuGet, download this, download that, build it, run this PowerShell script, delete these files, do all this kind of crazy work. Everything that you want to do, anything a human can do, DevOps can do. And then you do it and you create artifacts and you deploy those artifacts. So nothing we do goes by hand in any environment. And it makes it so that when we deploy in the morning, we deploy in the morning. Like that's what we do. All right. We don't deploy at night anymore. Because we know that our uptime is going to be great. If you look at our production release, where's my CD release? Like we've got things that take servers offline with DevOps, take CD2 down, deploy to CD2, warm up CD2, take CD3 down, all that kind of stuff, right? It's all, I take servers offline with DevOps, and we don't do any like nothing's done by hand. Nothing's done by hand. And but we're in that's ooh, I almost push production right. I'm gonna push that button, James. That code is not ready for prod yet. But yeah, so we dog food. We use it for everything. And
yeah,
it makes your life if you deploy and you get stressed out, it's like use DevOps and your life will be a million times easier. I promise.
awesome.
Promise.
Any questions on any of that? Does that make sense? Awesome.
Let me stop sharing my screen.
Fantastic.
Where's it at?
Chris, it seems
Oh,
like
I just wanna
everybody
show- I had my Bernie
understands.
Sanders. I'm once again asking you not to deploy by hand. I want to show that meme. I want to show it before it ends.
Oh, boy.
Very nice.
But yeah, I know I'm sorry that like I say, I talk pretty heavily technical, but you know, and if you got any questions or whatever it is, reach out and we can certainly give you a hand and let's get you started or give you some ideas how to get there. But
Good stuff.
once you do everything with DevOps, and we do, like James will tell you, like when James talks to a new client, like the very first thing he says is that we're going to put DevOps in first because we don't deploy by hand.
Learned that the hard way a long time ago.
Very hard.
Awesome.
Been doing this for 25 years, so. But yeah, hopefully that's good. Hopefully that's a good show.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. That was fantastic.
Yeah.
Very good, very good. Matt, do you want to do your deal? Do you want to hold and do it next time? I'll let you decide. Are you still with us, Matt? I'm checking to see if you're here. You might not be.
Was that,
Matt Gressley.
yeah, he texted and said that he had to drop.
Okay, all right. Jerome, are you ready? Trying to figure out, Chris, how to get you off of the full size screen. I forgot how to unspotlight you,
I don't either.
but you're like
Giant.
bigger than life right now. Not to make you feel freaky or weird, but you are.
You can view gallery,
Trying to find you.
upper right.
Yeah, under view. You can take it off, yeah, take it off the speaker.
Up to the top right. There we go.
There you go.
And how do I spotlight you? I think I've got you spotlighted here. All right, Jerome, whenever you're ready.
I'm gonna go up to the podium. It's a little weird back here. Okay, Jerome Russ. I am just an independent consultant and I get to work with several different sizes of companies. One of the most fun is one where I'm working with mostly admins, but they need something custom. So then we get to a solution and come up with a good use case for how to keep it as admin friendly, but also use custom code to make it do what we need. And one of the more fun things that came out recently is being able to use the custom metadata. With that, over in the dev group, see that Zoom is hiding all of the buttons I need to click.
Yeah.
So over in the dev group, we are slowly building out a Trello board using the Lightning Web components and some other technologies to tie it all together. And so this next one, what we're going to be doing is talking through styling, which is one of the things that I often get to talk through with admin heavy clients that I have. So what we do there is we just use the custom metadata to kind of control what settings the admin can change versus what coach. And the good part about that is it acts as like that contract between what the component's supposed to do and then what the admin can change about the component. That way you have some reliability there that the admin isn't going to go in and open a dev console and start doing stuff. They can make whatever changes we discussed through custom editing, which is a nice change. So here, all we're going to kind of show here is the start of being able to set up that Trello board where we have the color and the text color as the only options we change today. So sorry for the simplified demo, but the point will be made, I promise. So the way this works with custom metadata is you just go in and change it just like an old page layout out of like 2003. So here, since we use the colors, we would have to go grab the color, copy it over, bring it back. So as you can imagine, this is not the most fun way of doing this. But this allows us to say, okay, you have a brand change, or say you're a conglomerate, you have multiple divisions and they want their own branding. So each one can have their own set of branding they want. But the admin is still like, that's not a great experience. So what we can do is take that, and very similar to how you would do a custom objects page, you can go in and customize it. So you do stuff through Lightning Web components. So here, instead of having to go and type those out manually, we can create this UI where they can go and use more familiar ways of selecting colors. not have to worry about these text fields and doing all the copying and pasting. So is that all making sense so far? All right, now, being a developer, for example, what can we do to make this even better? So now, instead of them having to rely on going and understanding what that heading color truly means, once this deploys, since we're customizing that, we can show what their changes are going to be. Go change that color, you'll be able to see, oh, okay, so this is going to be our exact change. And while a Trello board, this is a fairly straightforward example, but some of the cool things we've done is for integration mapping, say, take this field and put it in this field, you'd be able to show some test data over here on the side, and they'd be able to see what the external record is, and then what the Salesforce record would be, and then they can tie the fields together. And then it all goes back to that custom metadata behind the scenes, which allows them to then, however they would like to deploy it, because it's not data anymore, it's not in a custom object, it's in that custom metadata. But we can still control what options are. Makes sense. Awesome. So, as mentioned in the dev group, we're slowly building out that Trello board. Some of the things we're going to be adding there, as mentioned, the next one is styling. Then we're going to do real-time updates, and eventually we'll have some actions out there, so you can send notifications or tie any sort of automation onto updates like. Questions?
So this is, you're going through this process within your dev group, is that yours?
Yeah.
Is that?
And they meet quarterly, so
Okay.
our next one's May 9th.
And what are you going to do once you have the same bill? Are you putting it somewhere or sharing it somewhere, or what's the?
Yeah, the hope would be that it's sort of fun. So then we just open source it and put it out like the app exchange. Yes.
Oh, okay. So then that would have then you have a object that is storing then all the project information that just sits on top of that. It's not just the component by itself, right?
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
So I guess
That would be interesting.
probably should have introduced that whole project a little better. And much like Terry said, I'm also behind on uploading our past meetings. So eventually that will be out there, where you can kind of get a better overview than what I'm going to give here. But the company that I have is called Caffeinated Collaborative. That's why it's Caffeinated Project. And yeah, the whole build process will eventually make its way out there. It is just an object out there. That's a simple task to do. But there will be some features out there that currently on some of the example apps out there.
Okay, nice. So if you want to learn more, go to the dev meet May 9th. Is that what you said? May 9th? Yeah. All right, awesome. Any questions for Jerome?
Since you mentioned that you have been working a lot with the admins, and when I work with my clients where they are heavily admin dependent, I do come across this question, why custom metadata and not custom objects?
Yeah, so the best answer is because it can be put in source control. And when you like do a refresh of an environment, you don't need a full sandbox to get the data to come back. Custom metadata will come back because it is truly metadata behind the scenes. I use sandboxes, that probably doesn't matter to me, but
Yeah, that makes sense. Yes.
I sometimes will make that decision based on who needs to be able to make the updates. If it's an admin and they have access to setup, metadata can work. If it's users, not giving them that kind of access. Go custom object. Awesome.
All right.
Super. All right. Let me check, I know we got a couple chat messages that came in. Chris has put some stuff in there, it looks like. Anything I'm missing before we call it good? Deploying flows. Oh, Chris, just FYI, they're deploying flows active in production. There's a link there in the chat for that. Flow some. That. Awesome. All right, everybody. Thank you all for coming. If you want to hang out, you're welcome to. I imagine all of our food and cookies are probably gone. But thanks for coming. There is some, for those here, there is some swag stuff up here. If you're interested, feel free to take what you'd like. Otherwise, we will see you next month. Chris, thank you. James, thank you so much for doing this. I very much appreciate it. Have a great day, everyone.